Good evening. I have 7 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Greg David,
Present.
Mr. Tyler Dean,
Here.
Miss Emily Hamburg,
Here.
Mr. Justin Smith,
Here.
and Mr. John Welch.
Present.
And you have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. This evening, we have Mr. John Barquette, a retired pastor and Bel Aire resident, to lead us in prayer. Mr. Barquette.
Let us pray. O God of mercy and compassion, watch over your servants as they gather to lead your people. You have been gracious to give us many resources in land, wealth, and people. Keep us humble. Help us to be mindful of our responsibility to use wisely all you have given us. Grant in each one of us a sense of justice, mercy, and compassion. Help us to respect the dignity and worth of each individual as we undertake the business entrusted to us. Help us to understand that we work only in relationship to others, other people, structures of government, and give us wisdom to work effectively for the greater good. Let us remember with gratitude all who have served our communities in the midst of this severe cold. We are grateful for those who maintained our electrical and gas power, cleared our roads, for our law enforcement officers, firefighters, and our emergency medical technicians. Watch over them and protect them in the winter ahead. Let us remember the many areas of war and conflicts in this world, pain and suffering which you do not desire your children to endure. We remember the innocents of Ukraine, Palestine, Israel, Yemen, the many soldiers of both Ukraine and Russia who have died and suffered in this waste of a war. May healing and mercy come to these areas, and may we all be a grantor of mercy in our lives. Watch over our fair city to keep us safe. Forgive us for our failures to live and work for the greater good. As we conclude our work this night, grant us all a safe return to our homes and families. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please join me in a pledge of allegiance to the American flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This item on the agenda is to determine agenda additions. Are there any additions we need to make to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on to consent agenda. Consent agenda contains the minutes of the December 19th regular city council meeting, as well as January 9th, 2024 special city council meeting.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. David. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item 7 is discussion and approval of appropriation ordinance. So due to the cancellation of the January 2nd, 2024 council meeting, this appropriation ordinance encompasses expenses from December 12th, 2023 through January 9th of 2024, as well as 2 payroll cycles. Of the reported expenses, $353,000 are infrastructure costs for new developments, which are paid through special assessments. Several other costs incurred in engineering fees and capital improvement projects. Are there any questions for staff? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. David.
make a motion to approve appropriations ordinance number 24-01.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. David, a second by Mr. Dean. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item 8, requested city appearances, and we have representative from the Bel Aire Chamber of Commerce. I believe the new president of the Commerce is here to talk about their 2023 annual report and request for 2024 funding.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Aaron Maxwell, and I am with Bel Aire Recovery Center here in Bel Aire, and I'm also the brand new president of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown on what happened last year and then ask for a little bit of funding for this year. So currently, our checking account balance is $24,095.31. Last year, we finished the year with 44 members of the Bel Aire Chamber. That was up from 36 in 2022 and 22 in 2021. And our goal this next year is to have 50 members. The membership applications and sponsorships are currently mailed out and emailed out, and those are coming in almost daily right now. So we're on track. We've got a couple of new sponsors this year that we didn't have last year, so we think we ought to exceed last year's sponsorships. We also have some speakers and tours currently set up. This next month in February, we're going to be touring the new facility over at the Catholic Care Center. March, Chief Atterbury from the Bel Aire Police Department is going to come speak. And then in April, we'll have a representative of the Kansas Veterans Festival come speak to us. And then we've got a few pending for later on in the year. Okay, so in 2023, the City Council approved a funding of $20,000 for the Chamber of Commerce. This year, we'd like to ask for a 25% reduction in that and ask for $15,000. We feel with our growth and membership and sponsorship and continued success of all the events that we've been putting on, hopefully in 2025, we're coming in and even asking for the same amount or maybe even a little bit of less money than we asked for this year. I appreciate you guys giving us the time and letting us request this funding in person. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, we appreciate the Chamber's efforts and glad to see the wonderful growth that's been going on. And I know you guys are getting very active and that's very good. So thank you.
All right. Thank you all very much.
Next item on the agenda is citizens' concerns, and I have some requests here. So the way we handle these is I'll call you to the podium. I need you to state your name and your address, and then will be given 3 minutes to speak. And that's so we're fair with everybody. We're not trying to cut anybody off, but we just need to make sure that we are fair with everybody. So first person is Mary Giovanni.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I live at 6523 East Central Park Avenue, let's see if I get my directions right, the southwest corner of Central Park and Sunnyside Place. I'm new to Wichita, so I'm still learning my directions. I have two concerns. My husband, Phil Surr, is here as well, and some of our neighbors. The concerns we have are two issues about water. The first is water pressure. We had major issues during this growing season with our sprinkler system, which was installed in 2019, when the water pressure was around 40 PSI. Our water pressure is now 28 PSI, and you'll hear from one of our neighbors that theirs is even lower than that. And so from the research we've done on water pressure recommendations, whatever building codes, it sounds like we're at pretty low water pressure. It has not impacted our home, but we have a single-story home, so we don't have to worry about water going to a second-story bathroom or anything like that. But we have been told that we will have to redesign our irrigation system that we spent a small fortune on if we don't get increased water pressure. So my first question is that something that the city is going to be addressing? Is it a result of all the new construction, more homes in the neighborhood, and so forth? And I know that you can't necessarily answer that tonight. And I really want to get on to the bigger issue that we're experiencing, which is recent. As of December 22nd, which is now almost 4 weeks ago, our sump has started running every 6 minutes around the clock. It is discharging at least a gallon, sometimes 2 of water. We measured it from the sump every 6 minutes, so about 10 to 20 gallons an hour. Our sump drains into the alleyway behind the house, and it's never run like this before. It's never run continuously for this amount of time, no matter how much rain we've gotten. And we have a lot of concerns. The primary concern right now is that with this cold weather, there is now a lovely ice rink in that alleyway. It stretches from one side of the alleyway to the other. And you come out of your driveway and it's kind of interesting. We see people skidding down the street. I don't know if there's anything public safety can do to put a sign up somewhere to warn people, but the ice is pretty thick because the sump is still running. If the sump stops running, our basement floods. So we have had the Public Works Department out a couple of times, and bless their hearts, they came out, Marty came out on New Year's Day, and we certainly appreciate that. But they come out, we've already determined that it's not a problem for the meters. The meter to the irrigation system is shut off completely. The meter to the house is not showing any unusual. We check our water bill all the time to make sure there's nothing unusual. Public Works comes out and says, oh yeah, there's a problem. And it stops there. So what we're asking is, who do we talk to? Who do we work with? How can we try to find out where this problem is coming from? Is it groundwater? Is it municipal water? We're going to have the water tested to see, does it have chlorine? Does it have minerals?
So
We
Mary,
don't know.
Mary, that's noise from my phone was, your time was up. So
Oh,
I need to
all
ask
right.
you to wrap it up,
Thank you.
please. Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you. Our next, and we will ask staff to look into this. I'm not trying to ignore that. It's okay. Thank you. Okay. Next person we have is Gary Jantz.
Gary Jantz, 6200 East 45th Street North. And what I was wanting to know is you guys did a traffic study there at 45th and Hillcrest. And I was wanting to know what it indicated concerning that corner right there. Also, when will we see the layout of the 45th Street changes? And how will it affect my property's front setback to the right of way? And which side of 45th will there be a 6-foot sidewalk and a 10-foot multi-use path? And why does it have to be 10 foot and why are they so wide? So that's what I wanted to ask you about.
Okay. Well, I won't be able to
I
answer
haven't
those
seen
questions.
anything on it yet.
Yeah, I won't be able to answer those questions tonight, but I do know there is an upcoming public meeting
I saw
on
that.
the 45th Street project.
On the
So,
30th of this month.
is that when it is? Okay. Okay, then you can ask those questions there, and if you don't get the answer from the presentation, okay? And
I wanted you guys to know about it too.
okay, well, I appreciate that.
All right.
I hadn't been aware of it yet, but I'm glad we know now.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. The next person I have is, excuse me for a second, let me shut this thing off. It changed my software. Okay. Carol Russell. There she is.
I'm Carol Russell. I live at 6218 East 45th Street North, and I have questions about the drainage at 45th and Woodlawn. It is pooling, and I noticed that some of the new plats that were on the city website, some of those are undersized, and I'd like to know why that is, why the
Plats?
Uh-huh.
Did you say plats
Uh-huh.
on the website? Are you talking about the
45th?
plating for the development in there? or-
No, I'm talking about 45th and Woodlawn,
Right.
and that they were changed, that the drawing was changed, the size.
Okay. I guess I'm not familiar with it, but I don't know we'll have to look
Is that
into
another thing
what-
we ask at the,
I think we'll have to find out what changed, because I don't know of anything that changed there.
well, and I didn't know either until the last posting after we were here for the planning commission, and they had a different plat there, with the zoning and everything. And so we wanted to make sure that the drainage there was properly sized.
Are you talking about the lot sizes for that new development?
No, I'm talking about 45th and Woodlawn.
Talking right at the
It's
intersection.
it's pooling. It's pooling. And I realize that you guys are in discussions about how do I put that? From north, going
Mhm.
south to
Right.
the railroad tracks. So we're kind of watching that too, because we don't want it backing up into those backyards that had happened before.
No,
okay.
we don't, that should not happen. So,
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
hoping not.
okay, so we'll need to look into this pooling issue. I'm not aware of it. I drive through that intersection quite often, but I know you live right there, so.
Yes, I'm well aware of
You
it.
see it there all the time. So,
And I bring it to you guys' attention.
okay,
So,
thank you.
Okay.
Okay, the next person is Michael Sullinger.
Good evening, Michael Solinger. I'm at 6601 East Summerside in Central Park. Live across from Phil and Mary, and I'm part two of the issue we have. My sump pump is going off about every 4 to 5 minutes. Probably I've calculated I'm putting about 300 gallons on Summerside Place every day of water. What I want to get across is that something has changed in the last 6 months. Something has changed with the area we live in. And the reason I say that is because I had about 5 or 6 months to do some things to research what my problem was. I've had leak detection companies come out. I had my sump pump tested, and chlorine was found in the sump pump water, which is probably not natural. I've had a lot of foundation people come out, a lot of drainage people, and something in where we live is different because I'm not the only one having these problems. There's a lot more people. If you go around right now, if you drive around the Central Park area, you will see the discharge areas because there's huge sheets of ice. Neighbors have came to me and commented about it. There's not much I can do about the ice in the road. I wish I could, but at these temperatures, I can't fix that. So I guess what I'm asking for is if someone, kind of like Mary said, if someone from the city could help us look at what's going on, because the leak detection company gave me some reports, and I forwarded them to, I think his name is Garrett, maybe a code enforcement area person.
Yeah. Mhm.
And he's looked at them, and I've worked with him. We've talked, we've had correspondence. But the leak detection person suspected there was a leak somewhere, but we can't test outside of our system. I can't go to the water meter and go upstream to figure that out. And I'm not making accusations. I'm just saying I
Yeah.
can't do it.
Don't know.
Right. So
Right.
that's the ask, is to help, if the city can somehow help us as homeowners figure out why so much water suddenly is being put into our basements.
Okay.
So that's the,
Well, we certainly look. to
it's
see what our
a
staff
big
can do.
problem, but not. I mean, I'm sure the people
don't
in
know.
Western Kansas would love to have this problem.
Yeah.
But they
I
don't.
think they would.
So,
So, okay.
anyway, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Those are all is there anybody else in the public that would like to speak to council tonight? Those are all the cards I had. So if none other, I'll move on to city council member reports, and I'll start with Miss Emily Hamburg.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no report this evening.
Okay, Mr. Welch,
I have no report.
Mr. Smith,
I also have no report.
all this time off, no reports. Okay, Mr. David,
No report?
Mr. Dean.
I'm going to be different, Mayor. I have a shorter report than normal, but I do have a report. First, I attended the Bel Aire luncheon meeting that started our new year, the monthly luncheon. I won't repeat a lot of what was already said, but the speaker there was the Phoenix, which was just a great group to have in and tell their story of their gym that's in downtown Wichita that is a safe space for those working through substance abuse and sobriety challenges. So it was really great to have them and appreciate them being brought in to spread that to other people. It was great to hear shared stories of many other volunteers starting out, coming through that door, having substance use problems and homelessness, and then turning into an active member, volunteering and helping their mission. So it was great to hear that story of redemption. Also wanted to mention the Bel Aire Rec staff. Thank you for a great kickoff to winter basketball. It's in full swing. We've had several practices, a couple game weekends, and man, that place, Bel Aire Rec Center, is a busy place on Saturdays. Saturday mornings are busy, but it's been a great start. So thanks to Brian, Danny, and the youth referees and the volunteer coaches for helping get that kicked off. And then I also wanted to mention that there is an upcoming meeting of the K254 Corridor Association. That's this Friday at 11:30. It'll be held at the Keachag Community Room. That is open to the community. Feel free to join us. It's really just going to have several updates talking about work in the corridor with the corridor management plan and some other updates from kind of a path forward and how the association wants to continue to grow and continue to work at their goals of safety and economic growth. That's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. Appreciate the information. For some reason, I wasn't up to speed on the K254. I do have it on my calendar, but I didn't have this location, so I appreciate that. Okay, well, I'll move on to the mayor's report, and my first report of the year is always a long one, so bear with me, please, if you would. So to start off with, I think we have a picture here. So I attended the South Central Kansas Legislative Delegation reception at the NetApp's new building on WSU Innovation Campus. Casey O'Hobison represents Bel Aire's west side of Wichita, or west side of Woodlawn. And Representative O'Hobison has been the lead of the South Central Kansas delegation for the past year. So Sedgwick County Commissioners, who are there with Representative O'Hobison, presented him with a plaque in appreciation for his service to the region in this role. So it was a good reception. So next, on January 9th, I attended the WAMPO TPD meeting. WAMPO has created a travel demand module for the region, and the module forecasts demand and predicts future performance of transportation network. So as I understand this is an interactive model that one can, with some expertise, can do what if scenarios and gauge impact of changes in particular areas. So that's kind of good for looking at things you're changing in roads and traffic patterns and that kind of thing. So they also have a commuters flow update report was presented as of 2023. The report shows that 1,797 people who work in Bel Aire actually live outside of Bel Aire. 99 people who live in Bel Aire actually work in Bel Aire, and they showed 3,516 people who live in Bel Aire but work outside of the city. So about twice the number of people who live in Bel Aire work in other communities than those that live in communities but work in Bel Aire. This is a fairly typical of the 22 communities in the region, the local region. So some exceptions are Andale, Colwich, Goddard, Mays, and Park City. They are more balanced. They have about the same number of people going into the city as coming out of the city. So a little bit of a different mix. So anyways, interesting report. And again, it helps with understanding traffic patterns and what growth things can do. WAMPO also worked on with the CEDBR at WSU to develop an economic profiles for some 22 communities in the region. This shows Bel Aire continues to be a strong community with the average household income of about $105,000 with a median home value of $190,000. So we have 3,118 households in Bel Aire as of that report. So I did pick up a couple extra copies of that report. It has a report customized to all 22 communities in the region, And if anybody wants them, I got a couple extra copies here. So as a member of the Sedgwick County Fire District Steering Committee, I now get reports on some of the more significant fires in Sedgwick County. As many know, the colder weather, fire events increase. So almost all fires are preventable if we just take certain precautions. Over the last weekend, Sedgwick County responded to a stove fire, generator fire, a furnace malfunction, a grease fire, and a dryer fire. And I believe the dryer fire was actually here in Bel Aire. I don't know the exact causes of those fires, but as we all know, most of these types of fires are preventable with proper maintenance of the appliances within our homes or property. So ask yourself if you've done any of the following. Have you had your furnace checked? Have you had your if you have a generator, have you had it serviced lately? Is your stove properly ventilated? And when was the last time you had your dryer exhaust vent cleaned out? Because they do collect a lot of lint. So let's keep ourselves safe from fire by taking some preventative maintenance steps. So as is tradition, on the first meeting of the year, I give a state of the city report. And so the rest of this report will be that. So 2023 was a year of transition. We ended 2022 with a consent order being placed on by KDHE on the Chisholm Creek Utility Authority, of which we are partners with Park City. We should always work to maintain compliant facility, and these consent orders are a bit common. I understand Wichita has been under one for a couple of years. So prior to the consent order, Bel Aire had engaged Burns and McDonald, which is an engineering firm, to perform an audit of the CCUA facility. They were a bit slow in getting that report to us. It was due sometime in October of 2022, and finally we got it in February of 2023. So a short history. There was an engineering design completed in 2021 to expand the sewage treatment plant at CCUA from a 2.16 million gallons per day to a 3.23 million gallons per day with an addition of a 0.81 million gallon day provision. However, the EPA added new requirements that at the time, neither Wilson and Company, the engineering firm who did the design work, or KDHE were cognizant. So Wilson said we could be compliant with the new requirement, but that would be making the provision for the future of the 0.81 million gallons per day a requirement just to meet the EPA's new requirement. In other words, we would have to build the planned additional 0.81 million gallon day, but would only get the 3.23 million gallons capacity for an additional $1 million in cost. It was at that point that Bel Aire said, let's stop and reevaluate what we're doing and why. Not getting agreement to do an audit sponsored by CCUA, Bel Aire moved forward, contracting with Burns McDonald to do the performance and financial audit. So that audit gave us a lot of insight. It confirmed that Bel Aire has no need to expand the sewer treatment facility at CCUA. We are some 4 to 5 years away from using our allotted capacity. Doing expansion under current financial arrangements will only add more cost to Bel Aire citizens for capacity we do not need. We learned about our other considerations to make for an expansion project. We also learned about the cost of service industry standard to allocate costs with multiple municipalities. So the report was very valuable to set benchmarks for negotiating with our more appropriate financial arrangements. I attempted to negotiate with Park City Mayor on new financial arrangements, but those discussions fell through when Park City said they would not willing to negotiate on water, only on sewer. So in October 2023, we received a letter from KDHE stating that CCUA only needed to upgrade the sewer treatment facility, not expand it in order to comply with the consent order. That seemed to be a turning point for Park City. They are now actively negotiating with us on financial terms. And I look forward to us completing these years-long process. It has been by the patience, excellent support from our staff and consultants, and the grace of God that we are finally making progress on these negotiations. To aid in improving the sewer treatment facility, Bel Aire adopted a new ordinance in regard to users and what they send to our sewer system. Sewage treatment plants can only do so much to clean up sewage so that they are not polluting our waters and streams. If we don't have people, especially industrial users, manage what they send to the sewage treatment, it cannot hope to clean up what they send. I have used the analogy of putting mud into your washing machine and expecting the clothes to come out clean. The washing machine only has so much ability, and this is true for sewage treatment facilities as well. They can only be designed and built based upon assumptions of what people are sending to them. This new ordinance helps define those assumptions so that users know what they're expected to do. Move on to Woodlawn. Excuse me for a second. Woodlawn was slated to be completed this year and this past year. It looked like that was going to happen, but then about mid-year, many of us noticed the road bed was deteriorating. This is something that should not occur on new road. Staff tried to work with the contracted team, but got nowhere to finding a resolution. Some test samples were taken, but those reports from those samples were inconclusive. So I sent a letter to Calvin Reed, the KDOT secretary, requesting his involvement with this issue. Secretary Reed did a great job. He came down here. He actually walked the road. He visited with staff, and he directed his team to get involved on this. And they were on site early January, taking multiple samples, and we hope to have a report early in February that will define the problems and suggestions for correcting those problems. So we look forward to having that solution this spring. 53rd Street from Woodlawn to Oliver was in such bad condition, we needed to close it again through traffic. So early in 2023, we spent another $30,000 in repairs, but those never hold. The cost proposals for additional repairs were $100,000 to $200,000, and those have been just more temporary repairs. So Bergkamp Construction offered to turn the road into a dirt road for about $40,000 as an interim solution until we can get this road rebuilt. So we took that offer since it would quickly get the road reopened. Bids for rebuild are going out this month, and we look forward to getting this road built in 2024. 53rd Street will also have a separate project to build a 10-foot walk bike path on the south side. We were awarded an 80% funding with about $292,000 from WAMPO for this separate project. But since this walk bike path is funded through WAMPO, it will be a KDOT managed project, whereas the actual road rebuild is funded and managed solely by the city of Bel Aire. We authorized the design work on 45th Street that one of our citizens spoke about tonight, from Oliver to Woodlawn. This design is slated to be completed in March of 2024 and submitted to KDOT for review and approval. And this rebuild will be managed by KDOT as well, as it looks to have an 80% construction funding by WAMPO. That rebuild is slated to start in 2025 and will be about a 2-year construction project, very similar to Woodlawn. These roads are very complicated. They take a long time to do. A sideline project will be rebuilding the bridge south of 45th on Oliver. And this bridge is failing, and the state of Kansas has awarded Bel Aire a grant to rebuild it. So that work may start earlier. We just don't have the timing on it yet. So we authorized the micro resurfacing of Oliver and some residential neighborhoods as a preventative maintenance measure for those streets. That project was held back until Woodlawn was reopened to two-way traffic. However, it got a start late in the year, and the weather turned too cold to complete. So this will be completed in the spring of 2024. In 2022, we established the Aurora Park Gravel Roads Task Force to consider options for the gravel roads in that neighborhood. That task force found a rock that they wanted to try on their roads. A sample section was laid along Harding. It appears the residents are pleased with this new rock, so the task force recommended that we complete the entire neighborhood with that rock. They're also recommending we reduce the speed limit to 20 miles per hour and fix drainage in the area. These issues are in work with the city staff. And it was great to have a team of people in the neighborhood who come up with recommendations that they believe will address the perennial problems of dust being continually stirred up from traffic. And a big thank you to the members of that task force for their work. We also added a sidewalk on the east side of Woodlawn from Central Park to Isley Elementary School to facilitate the children being able to walk to school. Our recreation center is very active with programs throughout the year. These include baseball, soccer, pickleball, basketball, taekwondo, exercise classes. They hold school out camps throughout the school year, and they are the venue for our spring and fall festivals. They also are the conduit for our senior programs with Medicare counseling, Tai Chi, line and folk dancing, book club, exercise, sewing, walking, education, and special activities. Did you know they actually have a weight room in the rec center? It's not really big, but it serves a good purpose. So from time to time, we hear folks say that the recreational center is a waste of taxpayer money. The rec center is an investment in our community. It gives people connectivity to the community and is a major player in the Bel Aire being one of the safest cities in Kansas. Bel Aire continued with phenomenal growth in 2023. We issued 142 building permits. That was down from 198 in 2022. However, in the last 8 years, this is the highest number of building permits issued, with the sole exception of 2022. The following developments had sewer, water, pavement, plating, zoning changes, and related issues come before the city council as the growth continues. And those are Bristol Hollows Phase 2, Elk Creek 3, Bayside Development for warehouses and manufacturing, and Sunflower Park, Commerce Park 3, Skyview at Block 49, Arthur Heights, Bel Aire Lakes, Cedar Pass, Chapel Landings 7th and 8th, and Hollenbeck Farm. We also did several annexations in Bel Aire, mostly at the request of property owners, but a couple cases just to close a hole in the city where the property was wholly surrounded by Bel Aire. We are updating our comprehensive development plan and our water and sewer master plan. In our public works, we purchased a vac truck and a lawnmower. We updated more of our lift station pumps to chopper pumps to reduce the risk of pump failure due to someone putting something in the sewer system that's not supposed to be there. The so-called flushable wipes was a big example of that. They're not flushable, and the marketers mislabeled the product. But there is also other debris from time to time that gets in the sewers. We outsourced the stuffing and mailing of our utility bills as a cost-saving endeavor. We authorized the replastering of our city pool. We authorized the replacement of some of the HVAC system in City Hall, and that will be a multi-phase project. We updated the cameras for our police and authorized 2 new Dodge police cruisers to replace 2 Fords that were previously authorized, but Ford never produced and delivered the cars. Through the efforts of police, public works, rec center, we maintain the recognition as the 4th safest city in Kansas. While our police do an awesome job, this is not just the result of excellent policing. This is a community effort. We all contribute to this by the pride we show in our community, by giving our yards and neighborhoods in good order, by not having excessive vehicles in and around our property, by doing simple things like picking up the trash even when it's not our responsibility. We purchased an ERP system, Enterprise Resource Software, from Tyler Technologies. That software will be installed in phases over the next year. This is a big project and will require a lot of work that has to be done by our city staff since they are the primary users. However, once in place, it will reduce a lot of the manual and duplicate work that staff is currently doing. This promises to make our staff even more efficient. And a big thank you to Mr. Brian Mackey, a Bel Aire citizen with expertise in these types of software and applications. Mr. Mackey helps our staff evaluate the current work processes, create requests for proposal, and evaluate responses to the RFP. Mr. Mackey has committed to continue working with staff on the implementation, and is a huge undertaking. And I cannot express how grateful we are and lucky we are to have someone of Mr. Mackey's background and expertise to volunteer to work alongside Bel Aire to see a successful implementation. Early in 2023, Integra Technologies announced that if they get CHIPS funding from the federal government, they were going to locate a 1 million square foot facility in Bel Aire, needing about 2,500 employees. This was a fantastic win for Bel Aire, and if it comes to fruition, will be a game changer for Bel Aire. We often hear that half of success is being in the right place at the right time. However, what is not often said is the other half of success, having the right people doing the right things at the right time. And I said it at the time, and I still mean it. Bel Aire's success are the people. It is our elected city council. It is the staff. It is the citizens who work many volunteer hours to assure great things happen in Bel Aire. This includes our Chamber of Commerce, our Lions Club, our Tree Board, our Utility Advisory Committee, our Planning Commission. Of course, we need to recognize the efforts of the Aurora Park Gravel Committee and the pastors who lead our city council meetings in prayer. I get the honor to be the mayor, but it is you, all of you, who work of making life in Bel Aire better on the edge. We're going through significant leadership personnel changes. Jackie Kelly tendered her resignation as a city attorney as she was offered a position with the city of Derby. We were able to find a very capable attorney to replace her in Maria Schrock. I enjoyed working with Jackie and I also very much enjoy working with Maria. As with all people, Maria is not Jackie, and they have different personalities and perspectives. Both did and are doing a great work for the city of Bel Aire. Our city manager, Ty Lasher, decided he is going to retire at the end of March. We are able to negotiate a deal to promote Ted Henry as our city manager effective April 1st. Not an April Fool's joke. He really will do this. And Mr. Lasher has been a great asset for Bel Aire. We have seen many great things during his tenure. He will be greatly missed. Mr. Henry has a different style, but he looks to be a great leader as well. He has already demonstrated much of this in his years as the Director of Finance. We look forward to his taking the realm in April and learning all he can from Mr. Lasher in the interim. So, and if you don't believe in miracles, you've not been paying attention to what's going on in our wonderful city. These things happen by the grace of God through the people who put in the dedication and support to make us better for the community, for the common good. Thank you for this great honor. Let's continue the success in 2024. So I'll now ask our city attorney for her report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I only have 3 things to add. On January 8th, the legislative session opened. Because of the weather, many committees were postponed. So I will keep an eye on that. And if I see anything, I will report directly back to the council. This Thursday on January 18th, I will be attending a HOA meeting with Bel Aire Heights to see if they have any questions with the right-of-way use permit for the 45th project. Ken Lee with Garver will be attending with me. I so appreciate Ken Lee coming because he gets all kinds of questions and I can kind of hide behind him. Next week is January 22. I'm going to be giving a coma presentation for the tree board. That will be my first time attending, so I'm looking forward to seeing them. But those are my only 3 items. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. And our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to take a few minutes and address some of the comments tonight for those attending and the council. As far as the sump pumps, Public Works have been made aware of that. Marty has been looking into what could be the cause. They've been out on several occasions. They were out on Saturday. They're still going to be searching to see if they can find any kind of cause that's happening there. But I just wanted you and the citizens tonight to know that, Public Works is aware and they're still trying to look into making sure that there's no leaks from the city standpoint. As someone had mentioned, if it was on a property owner, we'd see it by the meter constantly running. And so if that's not happening, then we've got to watch and check our lines to make sure there's no leaks there. So staff's on it. They're continually looking at possibilities. And if we find out anything, we'll let everybody know. The other thing I wanted to mention is Ken Lee's here. He wanted to talk a little bit about 45th Street. And so I told him I'd give him some of my time to give an update on 45th Street. And it was interesting that we had some questions about 45th Street this evening. So he said that he would update council, take 5 minutes.
Okay.
55 minutes, 5 minutes. Good evening, council. Thank you for giving me a few minutes to talk tonight. This is the right remote. Okay. We, as was mentioned earlier, we do have a public meeting coming up in a couple weeks, and I wanted to kind of give you a very brief just run through. Tomorrow sometime with your approval, we're going to go ahead and put a website up as a preliminary kind of a soft launch for a website for 45th Street that'll have some preliminary information on it. Then in 2 weeks, we'll have the meeting and we'll go into a little bit more depth. I do want to mention the 53rd Street plans did go out to contractors today for their review. So we should have bids here in a few weeks. And the plan is the first council meeting in February to have bids to review. We're still working some right-of-way issues out. So determining the exact start date may be in flux a little bit, but we're working with city staff on that. So don't want to go too far in depth on that, but we are closer to having actual bids on it. So I'll just run through real quick. So as I said, we're going to have a website for 45th Street that's going to be out for the public to look at. Our plan is tomorrow is to do what we call a soft launch, and it's going to be a relatively light page. There'll be some pages that just have some very brief information that'll have more information added at the public meeting. Part of what I did want to get from you some input tonight is, do you want us to just go ahead and put the whole thing out there at once when I get done? So I'll just run through this. So we start out, we have a home page. It's got 6 different tabs on it for people to click. There's a registration page, public meeting information, general information on the project, a link to project design and interactive map, frequently asked questions, and then submit a comment. A couple of those will be dead to start with. They won't be live pages to start with. So on the home page, we'll have just a real quick, brief discussion of the project. There'll be a registration form for anybody right now that wants to get put on a mailing list. We'll compile a mailing list. We'll provide that information to the city. We'll have it as well. So members of the public who want information on the project, there'll be one place for them to go on that. We've been working with city staff to actually get links for this put on the city's website as well. There'll be the public meeting announcement. The plan right now is Tuesday, January 30th at 6 p.m. I'll give a brief presentation on the project. We'll walk through where we are on it, the status of the project, the information we have for you to consider. And the doors are planned to open at 5:45 p.m. We're going to go till 7:30 is the thought, but we want to give folks plenty of time. And go back a couple. I should note, see that Google's map logo? That's actually going to be a link to our interactive map when the page is live. So we'll have a general information page where it'll kind of go a little bit more into the project, just different things that for the public to know about. Bike ped consideration. Somebody is asking about the 10-foot wide multi-use path, and they're 10 feet wide to allow safe passage for a bike going opposite direction from pedestrians. And I don't know the exact methodology of what determined it, but it was determined that 10 feet was the right width. The path will be on the north side. The 6-foot sidewalk will be on the south side. We will have a project timeline page that'll kind of give an idea of dates on the project. So that's the soft launch. And I know I'm rushing through this, but you still have a long meeting ahead of you, and I don't want to overroll it right now. But after the public meeting, there'll be more pages that come up where we'll have information on, so that top there where it says roll plot, that'll be, you can click on it. It'll bring up a large image of the site. You can pan around, you can move around and look at the site, see what it looks like a little bit more. And then the picture below is an interactive map. And that's probably the coolest thing that we're going to have on the website. And what that is that's an actual GIS map where people can click on there, leave a comment on a specific location. So they can say, I live at this house, I have drainage problems here, fix it, or whatever the comments might be. So, and that'll be anywhere along the corridor. They can leave comments on the corridor. We'll compile those and provide those to the city. So that's probably the coolest thing that's going to come out of the website is going to be that. And our plan is at the public meeting is we'll have 2 laptops set up for people who don't have computer access at home or don't like technology, where we'll have a couple staff members to help them leave comments if they want to. So during the meeting, we'll have that. We'll have a couple laptops for people to assist with that. We'll have a roundabout information page, a couple different pages on that. On the roundabout, I'll just mention the preliminary results of our study say that in the low growth and the mid growth scenarios, a single lane roundabout will work, but a single lane roundabout fails at the end of the design life for the high growth scenario. Now, we haven't finished our study. We're still refining it. We're still double checking everything. But one of the things you'll have to consider if we're going to think about doing the roundabout is having the ability in 15 years, making sure that it's designed in a manner where if a high growth scenario occurs, it could be expanded to 2 lanes. And whether or not you even want to mess with that. So this is why we do these things. And so we'll see how it goes. We'll have more information by the time the public meeting comes around for everybody to digest. We'll have a frontage road page. We have a new frontage road going in, and the city's established a policy where if it's a road that's intended for residents only, that they have to have some skin in the game. And so we have proposed to do a petition to help pay for the project on this. And the folks that we've talked to on there have been amenable to that discussion. There'll be some information on that. And then an FAQ page, and I know that's hard to read on the screen, but we picked out like 10 or 12 questions that we think people would want to know. And we worked with Ann and staff, refined the questions a little bit and came up with some answers. And so there'll be a page like that to review. And so it's like, what is the process if the city needs to buy some of their property? Will any of the intersections have signals? Will it be asphalt or concrete road? What about access during construction? When is construction going to begin? How is it going to be paid for? Landscaping, sidewalks, what's going to be done to keep the project on schedule? Stuff like that. We'll have things like that'll have some questions just to kind of give some insight. And with that, that's a real quick breeze through. My biggest question I have is, we can do the soft launch with only part of the page, so we can kind of wait until we take comments once we've done our presentation on the 30th, or we can go just put it all out there right now and put all the information out there right now where people could start leaving comments tomorrow. So my biggest question tonight is, do you have any questions? And then which would you prefer? Would you rather just go with the soft launch to start with and let people hear the presentation before they leave comments or not? So thank you for your time.
Well, my initial reaction is, and of course, let council speak to it as well, but I think you do it with a disclaimer that this is just a startup. We know it's got to be changed. So we've got recommendations to improve. Let us know. So that'd be my only comment. But what do the council members think?
I don't think you should allow comments until after the public information. Otherwise, you'll get a bunch of questions that are going to be answered in the public information.
And that's why we have the soft launch the way we do, is because it kind of eliminates some of the asking the same question over and over again. And that's actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. The one thing about the interactive page, our plan is to have it to where you'll be able to tell that other people have left comments, but that you won't be able to read people's comments. Comments will be anonymous. Only the city staff and Garver would know what the comments are. And we would share those with staff. And that's how we normally do these on projects. It just keeps it cleaner, and you get more of an honest feedback of what people are thinking rather than just people reading other people's comments. You get more fresh thoughts that way.
Mr. Mayor?
December.
Yeah, I'm with Councilmember Welch. I think you do the soft launch, and that way, if there's a change or something, we don't get bad information out there, or bring a bunch of questions that will get answered that evening. One question I had is, who is going to be the contact point at Garver when residents have questions throughout this project and send an email? Who is going to, are you going to be the point of contact, or it just depends?
We have website staff who will receive those, and they'll parse through those, and we'll provide periodic updates to Tristan here at Bel Aire, and then I'll receive updates periodically as well. But any questions that, if something comes up that's urgent, it would be directed to well, depending on the notion, but primarily Tristan and I.
So residents would submit their questions there, but the response would probably come through the city, most likely, usually.
Yeah, we would make sure that the city is involved in any of that coordination, without a doubt, and other city staff would be brought in as well. But Tristan is, I believe, who we're going to do the initial information dump to.
This would be very similar to what you have on the Woodlawn project right now.
It'll be similar to that, yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Dean.
The thing I'm more concerned about is getting this pushed out so that more people know about it. It's only 2 weeks away. So who's in charge of that? Is Garver taking the lead on that, or is city communications doing that? I'm more concerned about that, making sure people know to show up.
We've talked with Tristan about doing social media pushes on it. And so there'll be some information on that. We've provided a QR code that people can just scan with their phone if they want to be able to put up. It is designed to be a website friendly, or sorry, a mobile friendly site. It's geared that way. If I showed you the one page, it's actually like, if you printed it out, it'd be 3 foot long by 11 inches wide or 8 inches wide as far as how long the page is, as far as the scrolling goes. But it is intended to be mobile friendly, and we're working with Tristan on getting some information for pushing that out.
Sounds good.
And you said 6 p.m. on the 30th here at the community room. That's set in stone?
That's the plan. It's been reserved, yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
the comments that folks can leave on the map, those are just comments. It's like a one-way communication, right? There's not,
Correct.
it's not like they're submitting questions and expecting a follow-up. It's just, hey, I have some information to share. Is that right?
That's correct. It's a comment page.
So I guess given that in my mind, it doesn't matter to me if you make it live before the public meeting or after. If people have information to share, it's either going to be information that's helpful and relevant and you guys will use it, or it won't be helpful and relevant and you'll discard it. And whether you make that feature live before the public meeting or after the public meeting, I don't think it makes a lot of difference. It's probably better to collect it longer if you can.
Yeah, and we normally wait, but it's to your discretion on it. And
Ken, do you think it'd be helpful to push it out sooner just to help with advertising the meeting and maybe getting more engagement?
well, the whole point of the soft launch is to get the page itself out
Right,
there.
ahead
And
of
there
the
is a
open house.
registration page for people to sign up on and those kind of things. So that's why we wanted to get this out as early as possible, roughly 2 weeks before the meeting, to get that opportunity for folks to know it's coming and to get some engagement that way. So that's the look on that. And like I said, we're planning on having a couple laptops set up at the meeting with staff there to help for folks who, may not be used to it. And it's any technology. It can be a little confusing to folks. I know the first time I did it, I was like, okay, I only want to leave one comment. How do I turn it off? And I didn't read the directions. So if I'd read the directions, I'd have saw, oh, you just hit here and it turns it off. But because it'll just keep on clicking and leaving spots. You can just keep going.
Sounds good.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time. And feel free, reach out with me any other questions.
Okay. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to ordinance resolutions and final actions. The first item is approving the 2024 Chamber of Commerce funding. So during the 2024 budget cycle last summer, Bel Aire Chamber President Gary O'Neill requested $15,000 in assistance for this year. The city approved funding agreement with subsequent $20,000 grant in 2022 as well as 2023. We heard of great strides in the chamber is making in membership and community participation under city requested appearances. So the 2024 budget includes that $15,000 for chamber grant in 2024 if council would like to continue supporting the chamber. Staff and chamber created a funding policy outlining the responsibilities of the chamber in order to receive the grant. And are there any questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
I appreciated the chamber's presentation tonight. I think it's a good thing for the city to have the chamber. I like that the chamber is moving towards being more financially independent. That's a goal I know that we've discussed in council meetings and years in the past, and it's growing. It's making, progress in that direction. That's great. I'm going to support this.
Great.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. D.
Yeah, ditto a lot of the same feelings. I wanted to thank Gary for his leadership over the year and now Aaron for his continued leadership. And I have seen firsthand, I've attended a lot of meetings over the last 2 years and seen firsthand the growth of membership. And I also will be supporting this. And also appreciate that we're striving to continue to lower that and be more and more financial independent. So
Yes,
thank you.
That's good. Well, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2024 Bel Aire Chamber of Commerce funding policy as presented and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. David. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. On item B, so this is a in my report, I talked about purchasing two Dodge police cruisers. This is an additional two police cruisers. The other two were to replace ones that were ordered like 2 years ago. So we're trying to play a little catch up here now. So annually, the police department budgets to replace patrol vehicles at workshop. At the last workshop last week, Chief Atterbury presented the availability of two 2023 Dodge Durango police vehicles that could be used this year to replace the two aging patrol cars. Due to supply chain issues, police rated vehicles are difficult to find. And Chief Atterbury would like to purchase these two available cars to replace vehicles that are or nearing their 80,000 mile limit and in line for replacement. Experience has shown that replacing police vehicles at 80,000 miles maximize the resale value while limiting car repair cost. So money available in the capital equipment fund. If there are any questions, I think Mr. Henry is here to answer questions.
Mr. Mayor, I think you did a good job explaining. I will note that the 53rd Street reconstruction meeting will be sent out in all the utility inserts this month. So there'll be direct advertising on that. But to speak on this issue, it's in 2018, we had this great long schedule of replacing one a year and we'd be perfect. Then COVID happened and couldn't get a vehicle for about 2 years. And so now it's kind of the bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. We got two ready for us right now. So we're going to recommend jumping on them so that we don't get further behind on our fleet maintenance and fleet schedule.
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Sandberg.
We had a great discussion last week with Chief, as was mentioned at the workshop. So I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve the purchase of two 2023 Dodge Durango replacement police vehicles at a cost not to exceed $115,096.
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Hamburg, a second by Mr. Dean. Any discussion?
I'd like to clarify, is this just for the vehicles or does this include the outfitting on the 115,000?
Outfitting as well.
So do we need that as part of the motion?
No, it's you can, but
To be more clear, it would be best to include that, John.
I'll amend my motion to include the equipment upfitting cost and not to exceed $115,096.
Mr. Mayor. Before I second or amend that second, I noticed that the report that staff gave us, the total number shown in there is 128,296.
sorry, that's the number we need to go with. I'm not sure. The agenda item is, let's go with the 128,296.
Why don't we just start all
Okay.
over?
You know what?
Start over.
Start
The
all
third
over.
time is a charm. We're just going to just let the motion die.
If you just want to rephrase that.
Okay.
Yeah, because we have a motion on the table. We either
Okay,
have
well,
to
I'm going
act
to
it or deny it.
amend it to include all of the upfitting equipment for a total not to exceed $128,296.
I'll second that one.
Okay. I have a motion by Ms. Hamburg, a second by Mr. Dean. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. Item C is bids for development of Arthur Heights Estates is ready to move forward with construction of water and sanitary sewer improvements to support that subdivision. The cost of improvements will be financed through bond and spread as special assessments against the benefiting lots. 4 contractors responded with requests for bids from McCullough being the low bidder. And are there any questions for city engineer Ann Stevens? And there she is.
McCullough is a very good contractor. We've worked with them on multiple projects. I think they would do a good job for this project.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
I'll make a motion to accept the bid from McCullough in the amount of $117,136 for water and sanitary sewer infrastructure for Arthur Heights Estates and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, a second by Mr. David. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. And item D, so priority of projects. So WAMPO, every 5 years, WAMPO, Wichita Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, of which I am a member and we have 2 alternates, produces a metropolitan transportation plan, an MTP. So this plan document contains a list of projects that are eligible to receive funding and are considered to be regionally significant. To receive funding, projects in the MTP must be submitted for and accepted into the Transportation Improvement Program, the TIP. This is where the projects receive soft commitment for funding from WAMPO and are programmed to receive funding at a certain amount in a specific year or years. WAMPO is currently working on the next MTP and has called for projects with the submittal deadline being February 2nd. So staff, having been working with PEC on the list of priority projects to include the MTP, and our city engineers here to identify the projects and request feedback on their importance. So to kind of help clarify what this happens, in order to get WAMPO funding, you have to get into the MTP, and then from there, the projects move forward to the TIP. That's where you actually get funding, but it's a 2-stage, actually it's a 3-stage process, and not all projects get approved. I think last time we did this, we got 2 projects approved. I think it was, or is it just 1?
We got
That's when 45th got approved, right?
kind of.
Okay.
There's the 2 projects. I'm kind of confusing the MTP and the TIP in my head. So
Right.
rethink. The MTP, we did get 2 projects approved. We got 45th from Woodlawn to Oliver that did not include the intersection of 45th and Oliver.
Oh, that's right.
And then because I wanted to make sure that we had small enough projects that we could hopefully get funded. And then they also approved the intersection at 45th and Oliver. So kind of 2 projects and kind of 1 project all at the same time.
Right.
So that is the 2 that got in. Rock Road from the railroad to 53rd was our top priority project. 45th was actually 6th, but the committee felt, I gave my input saying the importance of Rock Road, but the others on the committee felt that 45th was a more important corridor since it was more developed than Rock Road. So anyway, that's the one that got on the list. It still has not been officially funded. It is a priority alternative to the TIP, but there's no money available for it at this time. So we're trying to get it funded.
We will.
Knock on wood.
Yeah. But okay, and so well, the real upshot of all this is, although even if we approve all 10 of these, 11 of these projects to be submitted, they're not all going to get approved. So we just throw it out there and see the best thing we can get out of it. So, okay.
And the hardest part about all of this is WAMPO has a set number of dollars to spend every year. And so unfortunately, the projects go into the MTP. It has to be physically constrained per the federal government. It has to be actually doable, fundable. So they can't just put in 100 projects and only be able to fund 10. So that's part of the reason we ask for so many and then just see what sticks and hope we get something.
And on the bike path projects, you've got phase 1, 2, and 3 there. Those are straight from our bike ped plan that's been put together. Is there a reason to submit all of them? Do we think that because we had the bike ped plan, is there certain funding sources? Explain to us why those 3 are on and why they're so high. Like, what's your thought?
Sure. So we have been talking quite a bit about putting in a bike path along the pipeline right away, about halfway at the half-mile line-ish between 45th and 53rd. And so we broke these up into chunks, try and make them smaller to hopefully get them funded and maybe use some leftover funding money at the year end. But the first priority that we had talked about was from Oliver to Woodlawn. It's an established neighborhood. This has been something that's been talked about for a very long time, but hasn't really come up yet. We've had a lot of citizen requests for this particular piece. Phase 2, we jump over from, actually, this is shown as phase 2, but I'd asked for it as phase 3. But, so I'm going to go to phase 3. It didn't apparently get updated. Phase 3 is that, or what I'm wanting to call phase 2 is from Rock Road to not quite Reb Road. The developer of Skyview, Andrew Reese, has been really instrumental in working to get a park established at the corner of Skyview. It would be a public park that the city would be assisting in putting in building out. So that's why I felt that this piece would be probably our second priority instead of the third. And then going back, the third priority, then in my opinion, would be from Woodlawn to Rock Road. The Central Park area already has quite a few bicycle path or walking, biking paths where there's several paths around the central or the lakes in there that connect up to the school. So since they already have some pieces, that's why I felt that this would probably be the third priority instead of the second priority. It kind of comes from the bicycle pedestrian plan, but not really. This first phase does have some additional paths in red that do come from that plan. And it's just trying to make things fit in a make sense way. So it's not entirely from the plan, but it takes pieces of it.
I mean, obviously the plan is just a plan, it's a guide, but
Correct.
My second question was the funding. Do we think that we have a better chance of getting funding for these because they are bike path? What's the thought process there?
There's several different pots of money that are available just for bicycle pedestrian improvements. We got one of those pots for our 53rd Street multi-use path. And so that's why we're putting these in. It's all of these sidewalk funds can be used on other projects because anymore, all the road projects include bike ped elements. But a lot of times they like to have strictly bicycle pedestrian. These are fairly inexpensive projects that we can hopefully take advantage of leftover funds at the end of the year.
Sounds good. Thanks,
Just-
Mayor.
Just a curiosity, is the bike path along that pipeline, is that a gravel path? Is that what that is? Because I know they're kind of hesitant about what you put on those.
Right. I believe right now we have it shown as concrete. And we're working with PEC on all of those. They do have a lot of communication with the pipeline companies. And so if we get it approved, I always want to estimate high.
Yeah.
And come in lower if possible. But whatever the final design comes out to be, if we get funded,
Yeah.
it will definitely need to have the approval of the pipeline company.
Right.
So I'm not going to promise either one, but I believe we
Right.
have it estimated as
Very good.
concrete.
I appreciate the explanation. Mr. Smith.
Yeah, on the ordering, it sounds like last time we submitted stuff in a specific order and it didn't really matter. Should I internalize that as don't focus too much on the order of these and really just focus on, hey, these are our priorities? Or do we need to have a lot of focus on actually Oliver 37th to 45th Street should maybe be number 8 instead of number 6?
I would say if you're generally accepting of the order, WAMPO did not ask for a prioritization list at this point. They did ask last year for a prioritization. So I wanted to make sure that we at least brought it to council, got your input in case they do ask. It's always a good thing to tell WAMPO, this is what the city supports. This is what the city wants to do. We can always get overruled. It's not our pocketbook. So I think it's always a good thing to have the prioritization, but with the understanding that it may come out differently.
Okay. I was just trying to understand how much time should we invest in kind of discussing the specific order here.
I don't think a lot. Ms. Hamby.
Yeah, I had a sort of question along those lines. If something drastic changed before it was in the tip, is there an updating process where you say, well, something's changed and we need to skyrocket that?
Yes,
Okay.
and I hate to keep using this example, but with the Woodlawn project, it was started back in like 2015, 17, a while ago. We updated it multiple times. Unfortunately, when we signed the agreement with the state, that's when COVID hit shortly thereafter, and then all the prices went through the roof. But there were multiple points throughout that process that we can adjust cost estimates. They do tip amendments on a generally quarterly basis. So there's always time that we can approve it until we sign on the dotted line with KDOT.
My understanding is the key thing is you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. That's why you've got to get it on the list is the big thing. Then my last question was when this, like, for example, with phase one, and I like the idea of the pipeline and taking walkers and bikers off the main roads and things like that. But that's like an established neighborhood with grassy area where if that got very popular, those residents may not love a ton of people back in between their homes. At what point, like say that got approved for funding, we would still go through a process where would we have a time for residents to comment on that, or that time has kind of passed?
More than likely, we would have
Okay.
a public meeting moving through that. There was quite a few residents against Woodlawn that were very upset that they were going to have a 10-foot path in their backyard, which, it's on city right of way. So the city can do what they want with their right of way, but they just weren't prepared for it to be coming, and they were pretty vocally opposed to it. And we went ahead and did it anyway.
And we're not there yet, but what's on my mind is even with the disc golf, I was walking back there the other day and I've seen some graffiti on some of the signs and things like that. And if you bring more traffic back there, you can have more issues. So
Exactly.
that's just what I'm thinking of, but I know we're not there yet.
Yeah.
So
And that's something that the council needs to balance. It's the individual property rights versus the entire community and their needs for the amenities such as the walking and biking paths. It's a difficult place to be in.
Mr. Welch.
My major concern here is that we're talking about all these things and spending time and effort and talking about spending money in design work, and we don't have approval from the pipeline company to be able to do anything yet. I think that should be our first priority on the bike path, is getting approval from the pipeline company, what they will allow us to do.
We do have in the plats for several of these subdivisions, it is written into the platting language that the reserves, which are over the pipeline company ground, bike path is allowed. So we do already have those preliminary steps. Unfortunately, you don't want to spend a whole lot of time and effort going through this unless you know that the funding is available. Once we get in line for the MTP and then hopefully the tip, there's plenty of time to work with the pipeline company to make sure that whatever design we want to move forward with is acceptable to them, whether it's a gravel path or a concrete path or an asphalt path.
Okay, that's news that it's in the easements.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean.
a couple of final things. So this isn't approving any design. This is we get funded. And my understanding is we would still then have to fund the design on our own. This is to kind of get funding for construction costs only. Is that, I'm just clarifying.
That is correct.
And
This
so
is a
we
wish
do-
list.
So we would have to approve a design as a council, approve to spend money again or if we get the funding, then we'll approve if we want to spend money on a design.
Just like we're doing with
Just like
45th
we
Street
do
right
on any
now.
other project.
Yeah.
So, and then secondly, one project that is not on that list that I know we've talked about on occasion, I'm not sure if we're talking about adding to the list, but 53rd Street. And I know we've talked about doing some work between Woodlawn and Rock, but Rock all the way to Greenwich, 53rd. So I don't know if you thought about adding that to this list, if that just got nixed, but it feels like that might be something we might want to throw and see if it sticks.
Right now, 53rd Street is not eligible for WAMPO funding. It does not meet the criteria of roadway. It has to be a major collector, minor collector. I can't remember the correct terminology
It's just
of
not quite there
specifically
yet.
what they ask for, but that road is not there yet. It's like one rung below what they require for funding of eligibility.
We need to work with them on that because 53rd is the only road that goes clear through this community, or this metropolitan area, east to west.
Exactly.
The only road in the whole area. You can go as far south you want, as far north you want. That's it. That's it.
Yeah, agreed. And then, Mr. Dean, I was also going to comment that even if any of these projects get approved for funding, the city still has the right to say no and pull back. Even if we do go ahead and get in the line for funding, if something catastrophic happens and we decide not to do it, we always really, until we sign that on the dotted line with KDOT, we can say no, we can get out of it. They can give the funding to somebody else. And even if we sign on the dotted line with KDOT, there is still ability to get out if we want to.
Thanks for clarification.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or concerns for Ann on this?
Okay, I've had my answers, my questions answered. I'm okay with this. I will make a motion to approve the project prioritization without changes of projects being submitted to WAMPO for consideration to be included in the Metropolitan Transportation Plan.
I'll second.
A motion by Mr. Welch, a second by Mr. David. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. The next item on the agenda is executive session, and I'm going to ask that we move immediately to executive session B. And would entertain a motion for executive session B for 15 minutes.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hamburg.
I'm going to make a motion that we recess into executive session to discuss contract negotiations pursuant to KSA 75-4319B2 for consultation with an attorney for the public body or agency which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship. The executive session will include the city manager, assistant city manager, and attorneys for the city. The executive session will be for a period of 15 minutes, and the open meeting will resume in city council chambers at 8:35 p.m.
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Hamburg, a second by Mr. Dean. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0 in executive session for 15 minutes. Okay, we held an executive session. No binding action was taken. I'm going to call the meeting back to order. And we can do one of two things. We can take a recess or we can go on to executive session A.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith,
I'll make a motion for a 5-minute recess,
a 5-minute recess.
resuming in council chambers at 8:44.
Second by Mr. David. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I
Opposed,
heard
same
5-minute
sign.
recess, so aye.
The motion passes 5-0. 5-minute recess. Thank you. Okay, we held a recess. I'm going to call the meeting back to order. The next item on the agenda is executive session A. So I'll entertain a motion for executive session A for 15 minutes.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith,
I'll make a motion to recess into executive session to receive information from staff pursuant to KSA 754.319B6 for preliminary discussion of the acquisition of real property. The executive session will include the city manager, the assistant city manager, city engineer, and attorney for the city. The executive session will be for a period of 15 minutes, and the open meeting will resume in city council chambers at 9 p.m.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, a second by Mr. Dean. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Executive session for 15 minutes. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting back to order. We held an executive session. No binding action was taken. I'll entertain a motion to extend the executive session.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith,
I move to extend the executive session for an additional 10 minutes with the open meeting resuming at 9:14 PM.
Second.
motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Dean. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0 with Ms. Hamburg absent. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting back to order. We held executive session with no binding action taken. Ready to move on to item C.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
I'll make a motion to recess into executive session to discuss personnel performance pursuant to KSA 754319B1 to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel. The executive session will include the city manager, assistant city manager, and city attorney. The executive session will be for a period of 15 minutes, and the open meeting will resume in city council chambers at 9:34 p.m.
Excuse me for a second. Is that correct wording, Ms. Schrock? You want the city attorney, assistant city attorney in there?
Assistant.
City manager, I'm sorry, and assistant city manager. Okay, just wanted to validate. Okay, all right, thank you. All right, for 15 minutes. And what was the time?
9:34.
9:34. All right. I have a motion. Is there a second? Second by Mr. David. Motion by Mr. Smith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Executive session for 15 minutes. Held an executive session. I'm going to call the meeting back to order. No binding action was taken, and I'll entertain a motion to extend.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hamburg.
I'm going to make a motion that we extend executive session for 20 minutes and return to council chambers for the open meeting at 9:55 PM.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Hamburger, second by Mr. Smith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We're back in executive session for 20 minutes. I'm going to call the meeting back to order. We held an executive session with no binding action taken, ready to move on to discussions and future issues. Anybody have any additional items to discuss or future issues to mention? Hearing none, I'll move on to item 14, adjournment. Any motion?
Mr. Mayor,
It's too cold to go outside.
Oh, you don't want to leave, huh?
I will move to adjourn.
Okay.
I'll second.
A motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Mr. Dean. If you're opposed, too bad. All in favor, say yes.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, we are adjourned.